A dusty acoustic guitar leaning against a flickering monitor is a common sight in the homes of the multipotentialed. This collection of abandoned projects represents a movie system that values the synthesis of information over narrow specialization. This chart shows how your brain's dopamine levels react to a new challenge. The massive spike occurs at the beginning, rewarding the brain for the novelty of a new pattern. Once that pattern is decoded and the skill is understood, the dopamine supply cuts off, often creating a sensation of physical boredom. Forcing focus on a puzzle the brain has already solved causes the anterior mid-cingulate cortex to fatigue rapidly. This willpower muscle is effectively lifting 500 pounds to maintain attention on a task that no longer provides a chemical reward. These rows of assembly line workers reflect the industrial origins of forced specialization.
Society relies on T-shaped individuals, workers with deep expertise in one specific lane. However, this narrow focus makes a specialist fragile. If their industry becomes obsolete, their single pillar of value disappears. Abandoned hobbies provide the raw material for far transfer. This is the cognitive ability to extract a structural concept from one domain, like a guitar's mathematical rhythm, and apply it to an unrelated field like computer programming. Each project in the graveyard represents a successful data harvest. You are building multiple pillars of depth connected by a bridge of curiosity, forming what researchers call an M-shaped mind. To manage the chaos of diverse data, the brain uses structures like the hippocampus. This is the memory center seen here in the context of London taxi drivers, whose brains physically enlarge to catalog the city's complex taxi routes and spatial landmarks. These memories are not just static recordings. The brain reconstructs them using schemas, mental frameworks built from prior knowledge that help you interpret new information at high speeds. Schemas can actively distort your memory based on subtle suggestions. In this study, participants who were told two cars smashed into each other recalled the event as more violent than it was, with many falsely remembering broken glass that was never present. This animation shows how the brain uses mental shortcuts, or heuristics, to reduce cognitive labor. The mind categorizes vast amounts of social information into simplified, rigid boxes to save energy and ensure rapid decision-making. One result is the outgroup homogeneity effect. We perceive outsiders as identical and predictable, while viewing members of our own group as varied, nuanced individuals. These schemas and biases allow us to navigate a complex world without mental collapse. However, this reliance on predictable patterns and mental shortcuts makes the human mind vulnerable to external manipulation. We are entering the age of the algorithmic self. Here, external AI systems replace our internal schemas with predictive personalization. Algorithms no longer just reflect our preferences, they actively construct our identity through constant feedback loops. This shift degrades our introspection. We now outsource emotional awareness to mood trackers and therapeutic apps, trusting a machine's data-driven summary over our own internal feelings and recollections. Algorithms use preference reinforcement to trap you in a digital echo chamber, constantly feeding you content aligned with your past data. Personal identity is then reduced to a quantified self, where complex psychological well-being is judged by numerical scores, replacing subjective experience. Predictive personalization creates a state where autonomous choice is replaced by consent to a machine's defaults. Our behavior becomes machine-optimized, following the most predictable path suggested by the algorithm. The M-shaped mind functions as a defense against this algorithmic determinism. Unlike a specialist who stays in one predictable lane, the polymath constantly shifts their focus, creating a data profile that is difficult for a system to categorize. AI excels at near transfer, predicting what you will do next based on your past. But algorithms fail at far transfer because they cannot synthesize unrelated pillars of knowledge. When a beekeeper suddenly pivots to UX design, they introduce a lateral shift for which the algorithm has no predictive history. Cultivating a graveyard of unfinished projects ensures your cognitive patterns remain unpredictable. By frequently starting and stopping new interests, you disrupt the preference reinforcement loops seeking to lock your identity into a fixed, machine-readable state. Maintaining your true psychological agency in the modern AI era requires us to protect our right to be scattered and unfinished. An M-shaped mind creates its own unique connections. ensuring that the human experience remains a synthesis of chaos that no algorithm can fully optimize.